So the research conducted by Carol Dweck and her colleagues on student mindset has been really interesting and important, and there's going to be an interview with Carol later, especially for maths teachers and parents. But first, let's look at some of the recent things that have been learned about the brain. And the key finding that everyone is talking about is what is referred to as brain plasticity. So people used to think that some people had the brain for maths or other subjects and some didn't, but recently there have been stunning examples of brain growth. Now, the brain isn't actually made of plastic, but the idea of neuroplasticity refers to the lifelong capacity of the brain to change and rewire itself. In fact, there have been stunning examples of the brain's ability to create new neurons and connections in recent years. So when learning happens, a synapse fires. Electric currents fire and create new neurons and connections between neurons. And the paths of a synapse are like footprints in the sand. They can become firm paths if they're travelled a lot, or without use, they wash away. And the brain is so flexible, it's changing by the minute. It's losing and gaining connections. You may even be gaining or losing, hopefully the former, synaptic connections right now. So let me introduce you now to the life of a London cab driver. All London drivers have to learn 320 routes that help them remember and learn the 25,000 streets and 20,000 landmarks and places of interest within a 6-mile radius of Charing Cross in London. So it's extremely complex, and they have to pass a test which is called the knowledge. All black cab drivers have to have passed the knowledge. It takes between 2 and 4 years to pass the All London knowledge, and once you're licensed, you can work anywhere in the Greater London area. Here's a photo of London streets. As you can see, there's no grid structure in London. So what the researchers found is that the taxi drivers go through a training period, and by the end of their training period, the hippocampus had grown. When they retire from being a black cab driver later in life, the hippocampus shrinks back down again. They also found they compared the brains of London taxi drivers with London bus drivers, and the London bus drivers don't have to learn such a complex set of routes, and found that the hippocampus of taxi drivers was bigger than the bus drivers. So the region of the hippocampus that had grown is specialised in acquiring and using complex spatial information in order to navigate efficiently. So a second example of brain growth was a 9-year-old girl who had half of her brain removed. She was having fits, and they literally took out one hemisphere, and at first her whole left side was paralysed. But she amazed doctors as within weeks she'd grown connections back, and eventually in a very short time developed all of her functions back, and that was because of the incredible and fast growth of her brain.